in terms of Chelsea, we know they missed out on Ugarte. Caicedo still high on the list. I heard Onana, the midfielder, mentioned yesterday. What are they doing at the moment in terms of recruitment coming in, Dean? And I called you Ben earlier, by the way. I apologize. Dean,
Oh,
it
did you?
is. Sorry.
It is Dean. So I didn't hear you. What they do in terms of recruitment? Well, what they're doing in terms of recruitment, obviously, is trying to sign players who are young, extremely talented, have big potential, but also have big resale values. And that is obviously a good vision to have. But it's a long way from the Chelsea that built an empire. Chelsea didn't used to build teams like this. Chelsea used to build teams to go and win the Premier League next season. That was what was important to them. It wasn't about, Carney Chumulmeke, he's good. Let's sign him for like £20 million, whatever it was, because in a few years he might be worth 60. Chelsea would have been like, let's go and sign this player for £50 million because he's going to win us the Premier League next season. I don't know that this Chelsea team. Well, I think basically the clearest way you can probably describe what's happening at Chelsea is the identity of the football club has been completely ripped apart, and they've lost all relatability from the fan base to what they had on the pitch. So it's all gone now, and they're making sure of that by getting rid of all the players right now that they're getting rid of, losing Kante, Kovacic, Mount, even Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Like that's like the core of Chelsea's midfield. Like that is you're taking so much experience away from the squad there by taking those 4 players out of your squad. And okay, like you stick Caicedo in there. If they do get Caicedo, look, in football terms, like 21 years old, like technically brilliant and actually really well suited to the role that you might want alongside Enzo. I understand that. Like that from that side of things, it's good. In terms of like where he's at in his progression as a professional footballer, Caicedo's had 1 year of Premier League football at Brighton, and you're paying £70 million for him. This is a guy they bought 2 years ago for £4 million. So this is a completely different version of Chelsea, and it's just being proven. Like Todd Bowley spent billions of pounds buying Chelsea in the first place with his investment team. Then he's gone in there and spent over £600 million on players. They finished in the bottom half of the Premier League. They haven't got a goal scorer still. They're ripping apart their team. Let's say 10 to 12 players ready to leave this summer. And all the ones that they're looking at, and they've signed over the last year, most of them 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. It's a great philosophy if you're building for that 3, 4, 5 year future. But what's happening next year? They've got a good manager in Pochettino, but he's got to have some players for the here and now. So if they sign Caicedo, which they are in a decent position to do, and I think they will accelerate that. I just think, well, what are you backing that up with? Because Kante, even though he hasn't played many games recently, still massively important. Kovacic, really important player. Mount has been too, weighed in with big goals. Loftus-Cheek, big part of the environment at Chelsea's training ground. Conor Gallagher, I don't think will end up leaving, but like the fact he's even talked about leaving, like, well, he's a young player of your own. He's like Chelsea through and through. It's just a really strange way of trying to rebuild because so much is dependent on the future. And like, what if the next year is not successful? There is no future because you're not going to be in the Champions League again. And you're not going to progress to the levels that you need to get to even keep this bunch happy, let alone entice Harry Kane or Mbappe to come and join you in a year's time. So I'm fascinated really by what this Chelsea hierarchy are doing with the club, because it's massively brave and bold. But yeah, it is risky. It's really risky.
Well, I think it's like you go back 10 days ago, it looked like, wow, that they're closing in on Ugarte. It was very close. And then they're going to go straight in for Caicedo. And it was right, they're going to bring people in and then move people out. Now you're seeing them rejecting bids for the players they want to leave. Loftus-Cheek to AC Milan has kind of slowed down and somewhat fallen through. They're asking for a lot more money than people are willing to pay for their players. They've not got anybody signed and over the line yet. And I know that the transfer window opened yesterday. I understand that. But like we've already said, Poch needs to work with these players pre-season. Pre-season starting in like 3 weeks. So it's not about when the window opens, when the window shuts per se. It's Poch needs a pre-season where the squad is in the next 3 weeks, they've got to get rid of 5 or 6 players and have a couple coming in and have the rest of them on a timeline out. You, as you say, you can't have 10 players going on your pre-season tour being part of your games who may not be starting your first Premier League game of the season. I've seen Man United do that. I've seen us take players on pre-season that the manager didn't want. The new signings haven't come in yet, and you start the new season flat-footed, and it makes it difficult for you. And
Yeah.
it's just imperative that Chelsea just go, do you know what? Okay, we're going to lose 10 million on Mount, or 20 million that we wanted on Kai, and 10 million here. But you put yourself in this vulnerable position. It looked good 10 days ago. You haven't been able to pull these deals off. So something's got to start to give soon. And maybe there'll be
Yeah.
a bit of a domino effect. You know, if Mount goes for 48 million, 50 million, at least it kind of sets a precedent of the valuation, and it kind of moves everything else along quickly. But I keep saying this to people, that it isn't 2 months until the season starts for the clubs. For us as get fans, that's when it kicks off. But for them,
Yeah.
the new season starts in 3 weeks when pre-season begins, and they've got to start moving things along quickly. Chelsea, they really, really do. In terms of strikers, do you know who they're looking at?
Like, it's all over the place at the moment in terms of like who they could actually get in. I mean, I think the dream is Victor Osimhen. I do believe that is the one that would solve so much for Chelsea, and they've definitely got an interest there. Just think it's very unclear as to whether there's any chance of that happening at the moment. Like, Napoli's message is that it won't. He's got a massive valuation on his head that I'm not convinced Chelsea will go to right now, but if they don't do it, then I'm really, really torn as to like what I can actually see happening. They've obviously got the Lukaku conversation happening. I don't think it's ideal either way. I feel sorry for Lukaku. I just feel like he's always the victim of any situation. I felt sorry for him in the Champions League final, to be honest with you. I didn't think that it should all have been on him. Lautaro missed an equally good chance, to be honest with you. Not barely anything was talked about the opportunity he missed in that game. And Lautaro is, talked about as a potential Chelsea signing. So yeah, I think Osimhen is one that they would like. Rasmus Højlund, I just don't think is a good fit for the here and now. I think if Chelsea are going to have a number 9, it's got to be someone that is so confident that they're going to be the answer to this situation, because they've spent so many years like struggling with number 9s. It's become crippling, to be honest. Like, Aubameyang can't score goals, Lukaku can't score goals, Morata couldn't score goals, Torres couldn't score. However far you want to go back, like Chelsea number 9s just can't score goals. So whoever comes in has to have that elite mentality whereby they are completely set in their own ways and understand that they are going to be the answer to the solution. That's either the rawness of a player that has not had enough bad moments in his career yet to understand that things can actually go wrong, and you go and sign a 20-year-old, or it's like an Osimhen who's just like complete elite mentality.
Yeah, it's such a difficult one, as you say. And again, I think the striker market, it needs something to give somewhere. It needs a player, whether it is a Højlund to United, a Ramos, United go for Vlahovic. It almost needs to be a marker set in the ground to go, right, this is what's going on and happening. But we'll be certainly watching that space with you. A super chat.